A couple of minutes later, the motorcycles were gone, and Anna, Mo, Raj, Divya, Luca, Mr. Davidson, and the bikers were seated in the audience. Tony sat in one of two plush chairs next to Mr. Letterman's desk, and Mr. Letterman sat behind his desk. "Finally, I can say, welcome to the Late Show, TB," said Mr. Letterman as he looked at his note cards. He tossed the cards over his back, and they fluttered into the model of Manhattan situated behind his desk. "I guess I don't need these anymore. It seems that a certain kid from Kansas City made them irrelevant." "What?" asked Tony. "It doesn't matter, TB. Let's just say this show isn't going as I planned. So, tell me, Dave?" "Where's Mr. G?" interrupted Tony. "I think he's backstage in the green room, hanging with Schwarzenegger, Diesel, Willis, and Durst, and the rest of the slightly insane Limp Bizkit guys. Do you want to see him?" "Yeah, believe it or not, I miss him." "I'm not sure the feeling is reciprocal with him." "Reciprocal? You can stop using big words, Dave," Tony said as a mischievous smile spread across his face. "You don't have to impress your boss anymore. I'm taking over for you on Monday, remember?" Mr. Letterman smiled and rolled his eyes. "The Late Show with Tony Baloney. It has possibilities, eh, Paul?" "It sounds good, Dave," said Mr. Schaefer. "Maybe I won't have to take that job at the border now. TB, will you keep me on the payroll?" "Sure thing, Mr. Schaefer," said Tony, "as long as you don't wear white geek socks to work." I wouldn't be caught dead in them." "Ladies and gentlemen," interrupted Mr. Letterman, "I'd like to introduce you to the guy that had the guts to actually bring my replacement to New York City. Let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Tom Gore." A loud applause rippled through the audience as Mr. Gore walked onto the stage. Mr. Letterman met Mr. Gore beside the second guest chair, whispered something in his ear, and shook his hand. Both men chuckled and then took their seats. Tony got up and gave Mr. G a hug. "Hey, Mr. G, good to see you." Mr. G gave Tony a half hug and lightly pushed him away. "TB, I'm happy to see you too, and I'm most happy to see that the three of you weren't arrested by the cops or kidnapped by Madonna or abducted by Limp Bizkit. But let's go easy on the sentimental stuff, okay? We are on national TV. Remember, I hate to tarnish my tough guy image." "Sure, Mr. G, I understand," said Tony as he sat down. "What was that whisper about?" "A quick discussion about whether or not we should chain you to a chair for the rest of the show. A proactive move that would prevent disaster." "Yeah," added Mr. Letterman. "As I mentioned once before, TB, trouble sort of follows you around, and I'm already in enough trouble with my boss, so I don't need any more tonight, okay?" "Sure thing, Dave," said Tony as he shrugged his shoulders and smiled. I'm just an innocent kid from Kansas City. What else could happen?" "I don't even want to consider what other disasters lurk around the corner due to the influence of an innocent kid from Kansas City," said Mr. David Letterman. "But what I would like to know is why? Why did you send me letters pleading to be invited on the show? Why did you send me hilarious top 10 lists? Why did you drive your parents, teacher, and principal crazy in your quest to get me to recognize you? Why were you a major nuisance in New York City today? And why did you bring some Hell's Angels to my show?" "Because you're the best thing that ever happened to TV, Dave," Tony said sincerely. "And I just had to meet you. I had to be on your show, no matter what." "Well, you made it," said Mr. Letterman as he removed his glasses and pretended to wipe tears from his cheeks with the back of his hand. Then he got up, stepped around his desk, and tousled Tony's hair. "You really touched my heart, kid. Now I know that I have at least one fan in the world." "Maybe you have two fans, Dave," said Tony. "Don't forget about a certain someone that works over at MTV." "Oh, yeah," said Mr. Letterman as he sat back down. He paused a second and a goofy smile spread across his face. "How could I forget about the only reason to watch MTV?" "Maybe your socks affected your memory or something." Laughter bounced around the theater. Could be, TV, I never know, but one thing I do know is that I've got 3 very famous big guys waiting for me backstage, and if I don't get them on the show tonight, I won't be able to fill out the job application at Rupert's Deli, if you know what I mean. So, before I let you go, do you have any last-minute surprises for me?
Well, Dave, actually I do, said Tony. Check it out.
A curtain rose on the side of the stage, revealing Fred Durst standing behind what looked like a dentist's chair. He held up a small machine and smiled. I'm not letting him work on my teeth. You know, he's slightly insane, said Mr. Letterman. I'm not going to work on your teeth, said Fred as he placed his baseball cap backward on his head, pushed up a sleeve on his T-shirt, and flexed his multi-tattooed arm. I was a world-class tattoo artist before I became a famous headbanger, Dave. And now I'm going to give you a tattoo, Limp Bizkit style. No way, said Mr. Letterman. Yes way, said Tony. You and I are going to get the first tattoos ever given on The Late Show. We'll each get a tattoo that says TLS for The Late Show. No way, your kids would kill you and me. Anyway, you're just a kid, so you need their permission. Tony took a piece of paper out of his pocket and unfolded it.
Yes, Bay, here's a copy of a PDF my parents just emailed. It says I can get a tattoo. Both of them signed it.
Tony handed the paper to Mr. Letterman. Mr. Letterman read it and then handed it to Mr. Gore. Then Mr. Letterman lamely said, It's a fake, right? Mr. Gore read the paper and smiled at Tony, stood up, pulled Tony to a standing position and said, You're something else, TB. I've always wanted a tattoo, so let's get one, Limp Bizkit style. He paused and looked at Mr. Letterman. You coming, Dave? Mr. Letterman reluctantly joined Mr. Gore and Tony. I should have my head examined.
That's what Mo always says, Tony said as he looked at Fred Durst. What are we standing here for? Fred's waiting for us. It's time to rock and roll!
Fred laughed. Slightly insanely, of course, as he held up his tattoo needle. Then another set of curtains rose behind Fred Durst, revealing the rest of Limp Bizkit, complete with instruments and electronic equipment. They immediately launched into a song, and Fred Durst danced like a semi-crazed lunatic as he waved the tattoo needle above his head. And Mr. Gore, Tony, and Mr. Letterman walked into Late Show history.